Hello and welcome to Ocean Education International's Professional Development Series. In this discussion, we will examine merging business and the environment, implementing and marketing sustainability. This video lecture was designed with two purposes. Primarily, it's to support students in my Sustainable Dive Tourism courses. This includes my EcoPro course, which is a 6-day program on sustainable dive tourism that I teach at Sea Experience in Fort Lauderdale. The video also supports an expanded version of a new online course called Sustainable Dive Leader, which I created in partnership with the Ocean First Institute. However, some of you may not be enrolled students, but are here for general interest or to become a more savvy and employable dive professional. Regardless, all are welcome. If you are an enrolled student, you should already have received an orientation letter from me with a Dropbox link to your course materials. On that site, you'll find a PowerPoint version of this presentation in the folder marked PowerPoints. You can link directly from that presentation to all videos, articles, reports, and podcasts cited in this presentation. For those of you who are not enrolled students, here is a list of the videos and other resources we'll reference during the presentation. You can stop the video here and take a screenshot for future reference. However, I'll be happy to send you a document with hot links so you can avoid typing the extensive text in the URLs. I'll give you my contact information at the end of the presentation. Research tells us that most adults can maintain an effective attention span for about 15 to 20 minutes. Therefore, as this is a very long presentation, I encourage you to stop the video frequently for a break. As mentioned, this presentation is meant to support students enrolled in my EcoPro course and a special expanded version of the Ocean First Institute's Sustainable Dive Leader course. If you are not already enrolled in the Dive Leader course, I encourage you to consider doing so because some of the material I'll present in this presentation is discussed in even more detail in that program. An outline of the course content is shown here. If you're interested in learning more about the Dive Leader program, this link will take you to the course website, where by signing up as a guest, you can enroll and take the first lesson at no charge. So, with the preliminaries out of the way, stop the video here and take a few moments to review what we'll discuss. The dive travel industry is being driven toward a more sustainable way of doing business because of three megatrends. The first is how coral reefs, the industry's most important resource, are degrading. The second involves changes in the global travel and tourism industry. And the third and most significant factor are the fundamental changes in today's travel consumer. So let's look first at the issue of a degrading resource. There is little doubt that the ocean is in a serious state of decline, as evidenced by the recent rise in marine heat waves and unprecedented global coral bleaching events. From Florida and the Caribbean to Australia, scientists warn that coral reefs could vanish from the earth well before the end of the century. This montage of images compiled by Dr. Phil Dustin, a reef ecologist who has been studying the reefs of the Florida Keys since the 1970s, shows dramatically how much the coral reefs of the Florida Keys have declined in just over the past few decades. So how did we get from this to this in the span of just one human lifetime? I won't elaborate here on why coral reefs are in such a perilous state, but my book, Beneath the Blue Planet, which is also a text for both of my sustainable tourism courses, contains an entire section examining coral reefs, with an entire chapter on the reasons for their perilous decline. Today, one of the most pressing problems in marine conservation is called the shifting baseline syndrome. This is where someone assumes normal is what they first experience rather than what once was. Take, for example, this image of a diver on his first coral reef dive. His blissful excitement with the coral colony before him is obvious. But what's wrong with this picture? Sadly, he's completely unaware that the coral colony before him is entirely dead. Its fuzzy appearance is not from living tissue, but from overgrowth of macroalgae. He has no idea what would have laid before him only a few decades ago. I believe it is our job as dive professionals to help our students and customers understand just what has been lost, why this has happened, and most importantly, how we might someday get back to a state more reminiscent of the past. As this image shows, if there's any good news, it's the public at large is becoming increasingly aware of the dire plight of coral reefs. So the job of dive professionals should be to inspire the public's will to demand change. While it may sometimes seem otherwise, the situation is not hopeless. Let's now turn our attention to exploring how the global travel and tourism industry is changing and how this is likely to affect the scuba industry. Many dive professionals, even those who've been in the industry for quite a while, usually have little insight into the global travel industry. Often, they assume that travel and tourism is an industry of little consequence, or at least not terribly important in the grand scheme of things. However, as this illustration shows, travel is one of the largest industries on Earth, accounting for more than 10% of global GDP and employing at least 1 in every 10 people on the planet. This chart shows the rapid growth of global tourism over the past 70 years and why it can be termed a juggernaut. While in 1950, nearly 25 million people traveled internationally, today that number exceeds 1.4 billion. That's equivalent to the entire population of both India and China, the world's 2 most populous nations. And as we'll see, this is both good news and bad news. As you can see in this illustration, cultural tourism is the largest and fastest growing segment of the global tourism industry. The reasons are many. People with disposable income are looking for meaningful travel and often want to develop a relationship with a new place or culture. Others are just looking for adventure or a rewarding new experience. Whatever the reason, heritage tourism has the potential to provide immense economic benefits, but only if the sites that people want to visit are conserved in a sustainable manner for the long term. This point is often overlooked in the dive industry, assuming it has little to do with our business. But that's a serious misunderstanding of the current state of what tourists are now looking for from a travel experience. A fundamental take-home message for those in the dive tourism industry, or any tourism sector, is that it currently accounts for at least 50% of all global tourism. Furthermore, in just a few years, coastal marine tourism is projected to be the world's largest economic sector, employing approximately 8.5 million people, with tourism-associated activities generating 200 million jobs. Stop the video here and take a quick look at the infographic on the right, detailing the economic importance of many aspects of marine tourism. Focusing specifically on the Caribbean, you can see here just how important this region is for marine tourism. For the scuba industry, at least here in the Western Hemisphere, there is no more important market as it accounts for more than 50% of all scuba tours worldwide. Equally important is that divers spend on average nearly twice that spent by non-divers. This is an important point to emphasize in any discussion with decision makers such as marine tourism management officials and others who control marketing budgets for travel destinations. The downside of the travel juggernaut is that at an increasing number of destinations worldwide, travelers are literally loving places to death. And that's not merely the case in coastal tourism. Over-tourism is even happening at highly remote destinations such as Mount Everest. Here you see an example of terrestrial destinations imposing strict regulations on the number of visitors allowed. It is only a matter of time before marine and coastal destinations begin to implement similar policies. As dive professionals, we must take heed and make sure we have a seat at the table when such decisions are being made within our industry. But to have a voice, we must first understand the issues. We will talk later in the program about a phenomenon known as the tourism area life cycle and why many tourism destinations often go into a state of decline. Here's an example of how one destination has learned from another. Nepal has long been a backpacker's destination, and today places like Kathmandu are experiencing over-tourism. Learning from Nepal's experience, Bhutan imposed a sustainable development fee of $100 per day per person to avoid its neighbors' experience with low-margin mass tourism. It's interesting to note that before the COVID crisis, this fee was actually $200 per day and may well return to that level once tourism in Bhutan recovers. Not all tourism destinations are taking the over-tourism problem lying down. Venice, for example, has banned cruise ships, as these were the number one reason for complaints of a deteriorating tourism experience in this world-class city. Additionally, consistent with what you'll learn later about nonlinear business models, this approach is exemplified in the headline at right. Venice dreams of fewer visitors staying longer and spending more money. But restrictive policies are often controversial, and this is where we encounter the realm of politics. There is no better example than what has happened recently in Key West. There, a referendum won support of 70% of the city's population. In response, the City Commission passed a law that did not ban cruise ships entirely. It prohibited only those with more than 1,500 passengers. It also took into account the company's environmental record before granting a landing permit. However, spurred by the owner of one of the cruise ship docks, who incidentally was a major donor to Florida's governor, the legislature intervened and passed a law removing the power of the City of Key West Commission from implementing such an ordinance. While Key West was banned by the state from restricting cruise ships at the privately owned dock, the dock at Mallory Square is city-owned. Here, the city can refuse to grant landing permits to the behemoth cruise ships. The result can be seen in these images. One cruise line, Virgin Voyages, elected to respect the voters of Key West and change their itinerary from Key West to Nassau. In gratitude, the city granted a landing permit to Virgin Voyages for their smaller vessels. So being a good corporate citizen can have its rewards. Many destinations go through a predictable development cycle. In fact, it's so predictable and well studied that it even has a name. It's called the TALC model, or Tourism Area Life Cycle. Time constraints preclude any in-depth discussion of this important concept. However, the link provided here will take you to an article explaining the implications in detail. The TALC model is also thoroughly addressed in the Sustainable Dive Leader course mentioned during the introduction to this presentation. Here we have a list of the major adverse consequences of over-tourism. Stop the video here and take a moment to review the list, considering each in the context of the dive destinations where you have either worked or visited. As with the TALC model, the Sustainable Dive Leader course addresses these issues in detail. A major misconception is that divers are a primary cause of the direct physical damage to coral reefs. Studies have shown this clearly is not the case, especially if divers are properly oriented, managed, and supervised. Instead, the major impact of tourism comes from the infrastructure required to support tourism, such as hotels, restaurants, marinas, and other facilities. In particular, eutrophication, meaning excess nutrients, from inadequate or non-existent waste treatment flowing into nearshore waters is a major concern. This is exemplified by the comment seen at right from a well-known industry veteran. A diver probably does more damage to a coral reef by flushing the toilet in his hotel room than he'll ever do by diving one. As I said previously, destinations can develop without eventually degrading, but this positive trajectory must be based on thinking in a very different way. It's sometimes said that when your boat is sinking, it doesn't matter how fast you bail if you don't plug the hole. The current approach in the dive tourism sector seems to emphasize new marketing strategies, but in many cases this misses the point and is really an example of simply bailing faster. But by fundamentally rethinking the way tourism operates, it should become obvious that we must reimagine a whole new way of doing things. In other words, we need not to just bail, but to plug the hole. A well-known example of over-tourism is Maya Bay in Thailand, made famous by the Leo DiCaprio movie The Beach. Here, things got so bad that the government closed the location for over 3 years, opening it only after implementing a visitor management plan. Stop the video here and follow the link to a CNN report on the story of this well-known destination. Throughout this presentation, I'll refer to several excellent videos that explain and illustrate the points we discuss herein. One such video is by well-known travel guru Doug Lansky. While you may continue with this presentation, I instead encourage you to stop and watch Lansky's presentation, linked here, before you proceed. The Lansky video explained the problem of a linear model in the context where a nonlinear model applies. This is analogous to how nature works versus most businesses. The linear model of more people equals more profit is depicted on the left, while on the right, the nonlinear model of how nature works is depicted. In this case, an ecosystem begins to degrade once its carrying capacity is exceeded. As Lansky describes, tourism destinations do not conform to a linear business model because they all have carrying capacities in terms of visitor numbers. But the same can be said of nearly all small nature-based businesses, such as dive operators. In other words, no small business has the capacity to service an infinite number of customers. So what happens is, as numbers grow, the experience provided by the operator degrades. But savvy nature-based businesses recognize there is a sweet spot where they can derive maximum income from a certain number of customers, and beyond this point, the experience they provide begins to degrade. Customers become increasingly disappointed and profitability falls. In the tourism industry, the acronym DMO normally means Destination Marketing Organization. However, as the Lansky video emphasized, this is a major cause for the decline in a tourism destination because of the heads and beds mindset of this approach. This is exemplified in the Florida Keys, where the Tourism Development Council is devoted solely to marketing. While the Lansky video uses Barcelona as an example of a tourism management organization, as you see on the right, this is also being attempted within the diving community on Cozumel. This commitment to a sustainable resource and economy through foresight and management is an encouraging development which hopefully will be emulated at other dive destinations. The link at the bottom will take you to an article explaining more about the effort on Cozumel. The answer to many of the problems we've identified is something that's been described as sustainable tourism. But what is sustainable tourism? You can find literally dozens of definitions from various sources, but the one I've come to prefer comes from a group that knows a lot about tourism because they were in the vanguard of the modern travel and tourism industry. This is the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. As you see, their definition means much more than just turning a profit. At its core, sustainable tourism means doing business in a very different way and is based on a concept often termed the triple bottom line. Like a three-legged stool, its stability is dependent on the presence of all three legs. In essence, a truly sustainable business must, of course, be profitable. But equally important, it must operate in a way that is environmentally and socially responsible as shown in the illustration. This is often described as a model based upon people, planet, and profit. It represents a real change in mindset, not just for the diving industry, but for all sectors of tourism. Put simply, for a successful, sustainable business, money cannot be your only focus. But it isn't altruism. In the end, a healthy environment and thriving local culture is what keeps a destination in the forefront and prevents the downward trend of the tourism area life cycle. Enough of the theory. Stop the video and follow the link to see how this company, Osprey, operates based on a true commitment to the principles of sustainability, even though tourism is not their business. As you watch, remember the sustainability mantra: people, planet, profit. Here are the goals of sustainable tourism for which all operators should strive. Stop the video to read and reflect, and ask yourself this question: how many of the tourism businesses or destinations I have visited or have worked for have incorporated some, most, or all of these goals? Unfortunately, I'll wager very few. While time constraints preclude a detailed discussion here, I do address these issues in depth in the Ocean First Institute Sustainable Dive Leader course. Sustainable tourism is often considered synonymous with ecotourism, but as illustrated here, the latter is only part of the former. The goal is for all forms of tourism to operate sustainably, and this is not just an altruistic dream. As the graphic shows it right, the projections for nature-based tourism revenues are very positive. In fact, this sector of tourism is growing as much as 3 times faster than mass tourism in general. In the final analysis, avoiding the downward trajectory of the tourism area life cycle requires not only a different approach, but an entirely different paradigm described as ego versus eco. It means rejecting the idea that humans are somehow separate from and reigning over nature, and recognizing that we are an interwoven and integral part of Earth's biosphere. Stop the video and follow the link to see how one destination, in this case the resort island of Boracay in the Philippines, has learned its lesson and embraced the concepts we have explored so far. It is interesting to consider just why sustainability is only now becoming so important in the tourism industry, given that it is hardly a new idea. In fact, the concept of sustainable development dates back to 1987 with the publication of the Brundtland Report. So why has it taken so long to take root in the tourism industry? The answer is simple. Because, as we will see in the next section, customers are demanding it. Now that we've explored the megatrends of degrading coral reefs and how the travel and tourism industry is changing, let's look at the changes we're now seeing in tourists themselves and how businesses are responding. As I said at the beginning, in my view, this is the most significant of the megatrends and the one that I believe, more than anything else, is driving the dive industry towards sustainability. Perhaps the biggest change among travel consumers today is that they want more than a suntan and souvenirs from their experience. Clearly, for some time, there has been a significant shift away from traditional sun, sea, and sand tourism toward what's been dubbed experiential adventure tourism. While this may be a new trend in the travel and tourism industry generally, this experiential traveler has always described scuba divers, but the trend is no less important because this can mean more opportunities to recruit new divers than ever before. Data from the Adventure Travel Trade Association has shown 3 factors that are driving the sustainable tourism market. Stop the video and reflect on how each factor is based on the quality of experience a traveler seeks. Clearly, rest and relaxation are not the primary driver for today's experiential tourists. To be successful today, dive professionals have to recognize that our job must become more than merely taking people diving. And this means more than just keeping our customers safe and entertained. A truly quality experience must strive to be educational, rewarding, and even inspiring. Several years ago, the Blue Ocean Network recognized three components of what they termed a sustainable mindset. These include values, beliefs, and recognition as an individual seeking community. If you completed the episode in our professional development series called Deconstructing the Dive Industry and watched the TED Talk by Simon Sinek, you'll recognize the importance of the statement, "I buy your why." But if you haven't seen Sinek's presentation, you should stop here and watch the video from the link at the bottom. The network also emphasized a need to avoid something termed greenwashing. At the top right, you see a definition of something that unfortunately is very common among tourist operations in the nature-based sector, greenwashing. Furthermore, greenwashing isn't always an attempt to deceive, and in fact, as you see, there are at least 6 forms of greenwashing that truly sustainable businesses must avoid. Stop the video and take a few minutes to review the details of each. Back in the realm of values, and considering the importance that Simon Sinek ascribes to a company's why, it becomes obvious that to sell your why, you have to sell your values. So let's look at how that can be done, or what has been termed values-based marketing. Surprisingly, the dive industry long ago had an advocate for values-based marketing. The late Noreen Rouse, one of the dive industry's most highly regarded professionals, had a long-standing policy that anyone who turned in a spear gun to her would receive a free dive trip on her boat. This manifestation of just how much she hated spearfishing was a prime example of values-based marketing long before the term formally existed. More recently, the well-known outdoor clothing company Patagonia implemented an aggressive, in-your-face, values-based marketing campaign that can be seen on their product labels. Clearly, there is no question where this company stands on environmental issues, as explained by Patagonia. Communicating a company's values can be an effective way to develop a strong emotional relationship with its customers. If, and this is an important if, you can establish such a relationship of shared values, it can have a major impact on marketing your business. It enables you to shift from a hard sell to a soft sell approach. Take, for example, Dick's Sporting Goods CEO Ed Stack's decision to abandon all firearms sales after the Parkland school shooting in 2018, which killed 17 students and faculty. Although advised against the move by his executive team, Stack persisted in what turned out to be so successful it is now a case study at the Harvard Business School. You can read more about it at the link provided. Perhaps the most famous recent example of values-based marketing was Nike's campaign with Colin Kaepernick. Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. It initially sparked heated pushback from the public and looked like a major marketing mistake. However, regardless of how one may feel about the campaign personally, 2 years afterward, it proved to be a major success. In fact, the Kaepernick jersey sold out the day it was released, and Nike founder Phil Knight himself later explained his rationale. In Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, he distinguishes between 2 types of marketing. The first he describes as manipulation. This does not imply anything nefarious, but rather a strategy such as a sale. This is further incentivized by some limited period of availability. The problem is once the sale is over, there is really no incentive for the customer to remain loyal to the business. The alternative is marketing by inspiration. Here's an example. Note that they're not selling a product, but an experience, appealing to all aspects we discussed previously that today's experiential traveler is seeking. So let's take a look at a real-world example, and one we're all familiar with. Here, companies are trying to sell outdoor clothing through a classic manipulation, a sale. But is there a better way? Here's Patagonia's famous "Don't Buy This Jacket" ad, which is used as a case study in most MBA programs in America. It's based on the concept that the greenest product is one that already exists, highlighting the need to reduce, repair, reuse, and recycle. Take a moment to read over the ad. What is it really saying? It highlights Patagonia's just cause and how they are pursuing something much greater than profits. They are focusing on making an impact by leading with purpose. Even though they may never achieve this cause, they know it's noble enough to pursue and make sacrifices for. They demonstrate their authenticity and accountability in the fact they are encouraging customers to purchase only what they might really need. The ad is a call to action by encouraging customers to partner with Patagonia in their journey toward helping create a sustainable world. They know that their cause will only be achieved through collective effort. It emphasizes that Patagonia places people and purpose ahead of its profits. While they are a private company, they don't measure their success by profits, but by the impact they are able to enact. And finally, it emphasizes you are not simply buying clothing, you are supporting global sustainability. Patagonia's commitment to doing the right thing has earned them powerful loyalty with both their customers and their employees. And through your support, you're helping to advance a bigger cause. The ad tells us not to buy, but instead encourages us to get on board with their mission, their why, as Simon Sinek would say. It leaves you eager to purchase their products to support their cause, and in short, this ad is genius and is why Patagonia has been quadrupling its revenues over the past decade. So it probably comes as no surprise that the founders of Patagonia recently made the magnanimous gesture shown here, donating their entire company to fight climate change. In Simon Sinek's TED Talk, you heard him use Apple as a prime example of a company that understands its why and uses it as a basis for marketing. This is clearly demonstrated in their famous TV commercial introducing the Macintosh, which premiered during the 1984 Super Bowl. In fact, this was the commercial that made Super Bowl commercials the media events they are today. As I play the commercial for you, consider that not only do we never see the product itself appear, but notice how it reinforces the company's mantra to think differently.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the Information Purification Directives. We have created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests of any contradictory reports. Unification of the laws is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Pretty powerful. One way a company can showcase its values is by offering programs that promote public benefit and social good. This is illustrated quite well by Dell Computer's Great Reef Census program. This new campaign is designed to help monitor the health of Australia's Great Barrier Reef using volunteer scuba divers and artificial intelligence. Additionally, the program highlights the role of citizen science, a topic we will address extensively for those of you enrolled in my EcoPro course. Stop the video and follow the link to Dell's website detailing the program. It's certain that companies would not invest in a values-based marketing initiative if it wasn't an effective strategy. Here you see evidence of just why it works so well, especially within two very important demographic groups we will discuss in detail shortly, millennials and Gen Z. LOHAS consumers, which represent more than 63 million people in the U.S. alone, assess the importance of sustainability well beyond the realm of travel and tourism. In making purchasing decisions, they place enormous importance on social justice, conservation of natural resources, environmentally friendly products, along with wellness of body, mind, spirit, and planet. You can find out more about this important issue at the link below. Sustainability has been a popular buzzword for years, but recently it has evolved into a major social movement, the significance of which is still largely unappreciated by the dive industry. Shown here are some highlights of a recent report that demonstrates why savvy dive professionals should focus their marketing efforts accordingly. For more insight, you can download this free report at the link provided. These data show how sustainability concerns impact the decisions of travelers. Stop the video and take a few moments to review the details. Another helpful resource is the Sustainable Travel Report, published annually by Booking.com, which you can download at the link provided. Here are some highlights of the report. Stop the video here and review the details. Expedia also publishes a similar annual report called the Sustainable Travel Landscape. One way to judge the validity of data is to determine whether different sources achieve similar findings, as does this one with the previous Booking.com report. Here are more highlights and takeaways from the Expedia report. Stop the video and review the details. Here, data from the Adventure Travel Trade Association shows that adventure tourists, scuba divers included, tend to stay longer, spend more, and are more likely to donate to social and environmental causes. In the sustainable tourism realm, the term leakage refers to that portion of revenue which remains in the country of origin, rather than being exported to some foreign corporate entity elsewhere. Note the vast difference between adventure versus mass tourism, as well as the greater employability resulting from adventure tourism. Another advantage marketing to consumers who base purchase decisions on sustainability and who have high expectations of service is that these individuals are willing to pay premium prices. But they will fork over the cash, as they say, only if they are convinced operators will do what they promise. A company's values are also more important to these premium consumers than gimmicks such as limited time discounts and coupons. This graphic shows the breakdown of major demographic groups in the U.S. according to their percentage of population. Note as well the newest demographic, Gen Alpha, who have only now become old enough to be certified divers. Whether they will reflect the attitudes of Gen Z remains to be seen. However, given the success of many dive programs that now target very young kids, there is reason for hope for this generation. The scuba diving industry has long been supported by my generation, the baby boomers. But as time takes its toll, we must change with it and look to other generations who, fortunately, have an even greater participation rate in water sports activities than we boomers. And given the size and spending power of the millennial generation, they are clearly a group worthy of more marketing effort than the industry has traditionally given them. If our industry is to reach out successfully to millennials, we need to know more about them. Shown here, based on a range of factors, they are quite different than previous generations. Stop the video to review the details. This slide and the next provide some insights about millennial travel preferences. Take a few minutes to review the details of each. Many are surprised that millennials make up the largest portion of airline travelers, which begs the question, are 32% of your travel customers millennials? Here you see just why millennials should be a major target market for the dive travel industry. Unfortunately, with our tendency to concentrate our efforts on boomers, many dive professionals miss out on a wealth of opportunities. Fortunately, it appears that those who will follow the millennials, Gen Z, have similar attitudes towards sustainability and social responsibility, and they're willing to pay for opportunities, enabling them to demonstrate their commitment. What we have addressed so far reflects broadly the attitudes and behavior of American boomers, millennials, and Gen Zers. But how do these data square with these same groups who are also divers? Fortunately, we know quite a lot because in 2022, the Reef World Foundation conducted the most comprehensive survey of divers ever on the topic of sustainability. They received feedback from over 2,400 respondents worldwide. A copy of that report is available at the link below. The report is too long to review in depth here, but let's take a look at some of the highlights. When asked, do you specifically look for sustainable alternatives? Nearly 60% said yes. Is sustainability a main consideration in your travel booking? Here, nearly 64%. Do you think dive operators should be doing more to conserve reefs? Unsurprisingly, nearly 96% said yes. And are you willing to pay more for a sustainable option? Here, nearly 76% said yes. Do you find it hard to see whether a dive center or resort is truly sustainable? Unfortunately, 85% said yes. This tells us even those operators who are already doing what we are advocating in this program are not getting the message out. Next, what is most important to you when booking a trip? While not the primary factor, sustainability still garnered nearly a 20% yes from respondents. Are you looking for further education on protecting marine life while you're on vacation? Nearly 83% said yes. Next, who do you think has the main responsibility in protection of marine life when diving? Note that most respondents believed it was themselves, although more than 10% felt it was the responsibility of the dive guide or instructor. Lastly, have you ever had a bad or poor experience due to an unsustainable operator? Here we see nearly half reported that they did, showing that our industry still has a long way to go. One insightful aspect of the Reef World survey is that each question was analyzed according to the demographic group of the respondents. Stop the video here and examine the differences noted between the respective groups. In the final analysis, here are some of the take-home messages regarding the millennials and Gen Zers, who are, after all, the future of our industry. From the discussion of how travel consumers have changed, let's now turn our attention to how governments and businesses are responding to the increasing demand for sustainability in the tourism industry at large and the dive industry specifically. Perhaps the best example of governmental support for sustainable tourism is the popular dive destination Palau. They have been recognized with numerous awards and have implemented far-reaching regulations supporting sustainable tourism and resource conservation. Examples are declaring their entire exclusive economic zone a shark sanctuary, and most recently, the Palau Pledge campaign. Here's a quick video highlighting the Palau Pledge campaign.
What does a pristine island nation do to protect the environment when its primary economic driver is tourism? Palau, a nation of small islands in the western Pacific Ocean, is making big waves when it comes to sustainability. The nation is the first in the world to launch an ecotourism pledge that is required upon entry. The passport stamp reads, "Children of Palau, I take this pledge as your guest to preserve and protect your beautiful and unique island home. I vow to tread lightly, act kindly, and explore mindfully. I shall not take what is not given I shall not harm what does not harm me. The only footprints I shall leave are those that will wash away. Now, what if every country required such a pledge to protect its environment and culture for future generations?
Based on the success of the Palau Pledge, the government recently enacted a new program called Olal Palau, which is a greeting to trusted and respected friends. This is an offering to reward tourists who engage in various sustainable activities as shown here. By earning points, they are then entitled to participate in the unique activities listed that tourists normally do not have access to. While Palau may be the best global example, in the Caribbean, another nation that's made a strong commitment to sustainable tourism is the island of Bonaire. Stop the video here and follow the link to the website and video explaining this successful public-private partnership. Similar sustainability efforts have been implemented even in small island nations such as Telavu. Take a moment to review this tiny nation's vision and policy statements. In terms of businesses, Hilton Hotels is a major player in the tourism sector. So when companies of this size and reputation begin to embrace sustainability, it clearly indicates this is not a fad. Here you see some of their survey data, which found a third of the respondents actively seeking information on sustainability before booking, and of those, 60% conduct research even when it is not easily available. In response, the company has embarked on an ambitious sustainability program called Travel with Purpose. More information can be found at the link provided here. Even smaller hotel chains such as Iberostar are making major commitments to sustainability through initiatives such as their Wave of Change program. This is a long-term commitment supporting a circular economy, responsible fishing, and coastal health. And at all of their resorts at scuba diving destinations, they sponsor coral reef restoration efforts. Funded by a group of marine scientists, the company Waterlust manufactures a clothing line that actively supports scientific research and marine education. Each of their clothing patterns is based on a specific marine creature, and along with the product, the consumer receives educational materials about the creature and its conservation status. The video link will explain more about this laudable business model. Supported through their Tiger Shark clothing line, Waterlust has helped sponsor research that may assist resource managers in protecting several shark species. A video highlighting this research can be found at the link provided. One diving equipment manufacturer that has long supported sustainability is Fourth Element. Details on its Ocean Positive initiative can be found at the link provided here. My favorite example of a dive resort committed fundamentally to sustainability is Mosul, located in the eastern Indonesian islands of Raja Ampat. The Economist magazine produced a short video featuring how the resort evolved, helped develop a marine protected area, and works closely with the local community to train rangers who vigorously enforce the MPA regulations. A link to that video is provided here. Additionally, if you're enrolled in one of my sustainable tourism courses, a copy of Mosul's Sustainable Tourism Policies can be found in your student materials Dropbox. Another Indonesian resort, Wakatobi, was developed with the same principles as Mosul. Their unwavering commitment to environmental sustainability and concern for the local community is detailed in the two articles linked here. Back in the Caribbean, on Bonaire, VIP Diving is an example of an operator strongly committed to sustainability and support for the local community. A video explaining the details can be found at the link provided. Bonaire's neighbor Curaçao is also committed to sustainability, which is explained in the Dive Curaçao website at the link provided here. One operator on Curaçao, Ocean Encounters, has even implemented a 10-point sustainability pledge to show the company's commitment to to protecting the island's environment. Likewise, another Curacao-based resort, Lions Dive, implemented an exemplary sustainability plan, which is highlighted at the link provided. In the Western Caribbean, on the Honduran island of Roatan, the venerable dive resort Anthony's Key has made one of the most wide-ranging commitments to sustainability of any operator in the region. An outstanding video featuring what they've done can be found at the link provided. Just like land-based resorts, liveaboards are also adopting sustainable practices in a big way, and none more so than Explorer Ventures. Not only have they implemented their Dive Green initiative, highlighted here, one of their vessels, the Caribbean Explorer, became the first liveaboard to earn Greenfin's full certification. The video link here will explain more. On the left is a chronology of Explorer Ventures' longtime commitment to sustainability. At the right is a copy of a pre-trip document highlighting their Dive Green program, which they send to every customer joining them on a voyage. Another liveaboard operator that has made significant contributions to sustainability is Aggressor Adventures. Not only have they implemented a sustainability initiative called Green the Fleet, they also sponsor a nonprofit foundation called Sea of Change. Their foundation has in turn helped support research as well as implement conservation and education programs at many of the destinations where Aggressor vessels operate. You can find more details at the link provided. One of the products provided by the Sea of Change Foundation is the Sustainable Travel Guide on the right. Another free resource is the Reef Safe Traveler Guide developed by the Coral Reef Alliance. The dive travel provider, Blue O2, has long maintained a strong commitment to responsible tourism, the details of which can be found at the link provided. Sustainability can also be an effective advertising strategy. This ad, produced by the agency representing the Florida Keys and Key West Tourism Development Council, appeared several years ago. Here, the success of 28 no-take sanctuary preservation areas, known as SPAs, implemented by the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary, is featured and emphasized as one of the main reasons to visit this destination. Not only are dive resorts creating programs promoting conservation and social responsibility, some travel wholesalers are following suit. Here, one innovative company, Deep Blue Adventures, has created its own nonprofit called Goodwill Diving. It funds and supports conservation and social programs at some of their clients' destinations. In fact, many of Deep Blue's customers will devote time to these projects during their trips. More information is available at the link. On Grand Cayman, Ocean Frontiers launched its commitment to sustainability cautiously. They began by taking simple steps, identifying what may be described as low-hanging fruit. You can see here that none of these policies required a great deal of time nor investment. The carbon calculator I will be discussing in more depth shortly. While much of this discussion involved entire nations or resorts, local dive centers can also get behind the move towards sustainability. A prime example is Blue Planet Scuba in Washington, D.C. They hold a monthly webinar for their clients called Travel Tuesday. The one highlighted here is on planning an eco-minded dive trip. You can view the full video at the link provided. Let's now shift the discussion to how dive professionals can help their customers and students make more responsible choices. The travel and tourism industry contributes about 8% to annual greenhouse gas emissions. This means if it were a country, it would be the world's 7th largest carbon emitter, just behind Germany. The biggest contributor is commercial aviation, and this situation is projected to get worse unless action is taken. Luckily, there are ways to mitigate this problem. Carbon offsets are one way to reduce the CO2 entering the atmosphere caused by burning fossil fuels. The idea is to pull back and sequester the CO2 in the form of some biomass. As you see from the illustration, it turns out The best way to do this is through what are termed blue carbon ecosystems. These include seagrass meadows, salt marshes, and mangrove forests, which, as you see, are far more effective at sequestering CO2 than any terrestrial ecosystem, even tropical rainforests. Carbon offset programs that are geared to consumers operate by first determining how much carbon dioxide is released by a particular activity. They then link to a program that will put that carbon back into biomass. As you see, there is considerable public support for this approach. While there are now several calculator services, I prefer the one shown here, maintained by the Ocean Foundation. The reason for my support is that it funds only blue carbon projects. The calculator is available at the link provided, and you may also want to watch the video featuring one of the projects funded by the Ocean Foundation. I used the calculator recently for a flight to the Philippines, requiring a round trip of approximately 18,000 miles. It determined that my flight would put 0.29 tons of CO2 into the atmosphere, but I could pull that same amount out of the atmosphere, sequestering it into biomass for a contribution of merely $5.80 to an Ocean Foundation project. One other useful resource for dive travelers is an appendix in my book, Beneath the Blue Planet. On pages 362 through 365, you'll find this guide to evaluating a dive operator's commitment to sustainable tourism. Demonstrating how much sustainability has permeated the dive community, DAN, an organization primarily associated with dive safety, has recently developed an environmental sustainability plan for dive operators. A copy is available at the link provided. To help dive professionals become more environmentally responsible and successful, the Reef World Foundation and Blue Ocean Network have advised a sustainability pathway involving 5 steps. Step 1 begins with awareness, and it is often the most important and challenging step in the process. This is because, in most cases, it requires a shift in mindset and the awakening to the value and necessity of positioning the environment at the heart of your business. This is one reason I placed so much emphasis on Simon Sinek and understanding that you must establish a clear why for what you do. Critically, step 1 must be a top-down commitment from management. Step 2 involves the easy stuff, the low-hanging fruit. This includes simple actions such as encouraging your clients to bring back any trash they find as part of their dive, reducing or eliminating single-use plastic, providing reef-safe sunscreen, or beefing up the environmental content of your dive briefings. However, while this may reduce environmental impact to some extent, this small step alone will not achieve the mission of a truly sustainable business. Once the easy stuff has been taken care of, it's time to move on to actions that will likely require modest investment. Although some actions may not cost anything, such as changing to more eco-conscious suppliers, others, like switching to biodiesel, might. But take care not to become too ambitious, as failure at this point can rob you of motivation. Adopt target goals that are measurable and achievable within a reasonable period, but not necessarily immediately. Take a few moments to review the points listed here. By step 4, your business ethos of sustainability and environmental conservation is probably recognized by both colleagues and customers. This can be a springboard to developing partnerships with local environmental organizations and resource managers. You can now concentrate on staff development, aggressively searching for or creating employees who share your company's why. If you haven't already, this is when you should seriously assess the quality of the client experience you provide, ensuring that it's creating loyal return customers. If you're enrolled in one of my sustainable tourism courses, we'll talk much more about this vital issue later. At this 5th and final stage, You consistently reflect sound environmental practice, and your decision making is based on achieving the lowest environmental footprint. Your reputation attracts colleagues who seek out your advice. Other professionals now want to collaborate with you, adding value to your own products and services. By supporting local environmental groups and activities, you not only give back to the community, but you also enhance your reputation as both a green business and a good neighbor. This often results in government authorities seeing you as a partner in environmental management. In turn, this can open channels to provide input and possibly help direct local environmental management decision-making. Eventually, all of this buzz attracts consumers who are willing to pay more for unique, high-quality programs. And these folks will become your most important assets, return customers. Many will post glowing reviews and light up their social media networks, raving about your business. These are marketing tools you simply cannot buy. Recognize there are many forces pressuring you to operate a sustainable business, and one that's often overlooked is the government. As coral reef ecosystems continue to degrade, virtually every dive destination is under increasing scrutiny for more effective government management. And because of its close association with coral reefs, dive tourism is often a major focus of resource managers wanting to do something. Many governments are already looking for guidance and turning to industry best practice and international standards to help guide their efforts. Fortunately, a set of consensus-based standards does exist, as shown here from the International Standards Organization. By the way, this is the same group that creates the training standards we abide by in training divers. One way to minimize or avoid government regulation is to be proactive, implementing best practice before they become mandates. Incidentally, this is exactly how the scuba industry in the U.S. avoided regulation by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration back in the 1970s. Finally, let's review the various organizations, programs, and other tools that exist to help you become a more sustainable and successful dive professional. By far, the best program to advance your goal of becoming a truly sustainable dive professional is the Green Fins program, which is directed and administered by the Reef World Foundation. It offers both certified and digital membership and is a sure way to make your business more successful and expand its recognition as a champion for ocean conservation. If you're already working for a dive operation that is a Green Fins member or are otherwise familiar with the program, you can skip this short video explaining the organization's structure and benefits. However, if you are unfamiliar, I encourage you to watch this 2.5-minute overview.
Green Fins is the world's first independent certificate to stop the environmental impact from marine-based tourism. Implemented by the Reef World Foundation in partnership with the UN Environment Programme, predominantly through its membership, which is available globally. Tourists are demanding more sustainable options. They are willing to pay more for operations that are aligned to their values on sustainability and preservation of our wonderful ocean ecosystems. They want to learn more about the environment and how to be involved in meaningful conservation. They want to book sustainable holidays with confidence. Green Fins provides the only internationally recognized environmental standards for the diving and snorkeling activities. Start your sustainability journey with Green Fins in these simple steps. For certified membership, sign up on the Green Fins Hub. Receive in-person assessment. Consult and review your sustainable action plan with Green Fins assessors. Track your progress. Participate in the Green Fins Community Forum. For digital membership, sign up on the Green Fins Hub. Complete self-evaluation. Build your sustainable action plan, which is tailored to you and your operation, achievable, practical, and cost-effective. Track your progress. Participate in the Green Fins Community Forum. What do you get as a member? Guidance to achieve your sustainability goals. Endorsement from UNEP, Reef World, and other partners. Support from the Green Fins global community. Promotion on the Green Fins website and partner booking platforms. Access to new customers. And many more. With Green Fins, you will embrace and enjoy the benefits of adopting ocean-conscious business practices, sustaining both your business and ocean health. Sign up today.
A program that's available to all dive professionals everywhere, even if you're not affiliated with Green Fins, is their outstanding Dive Guide e-course. I'm such a big believer in this valuable tool that it is required of all of the students who enroll in my EcoPro Sustainable Dive Tourism course. Green Fins also offers a diver version of the e-course, which I believe should be a part of every open water diver course in existence. A link to the course is provided here. A fantastic resource for dive professionals in the tourism sector is the Blue Tourism Resource Portal. It is designed to help managers, operators, and other stakeholders make their destinations more sustainable and resilient. The portal offers hundreds of useful resources, including guidelines, toolkits, case studies, and Blue Tourism networks. I strongly encourage you to familiarize yourself with this outstanding information resource, which is linked here. You should also be aware of several large and well-funded organizations devoted to sustainable tourism in all forms. Here you see the Travel Foundation, the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, and Tourism Cares, along with links to their respective websites. Many of the resources and programs are offered free of charge. Looking beyond the scope of dive tourism is a good way to broaden your perspective and gain new ideas. So spending some time on each of these sites would be a good investment. The ultimate goal of any business is to remain in business, but doing business in the 21st century will mean much more than black ink on the bottom line. Successful businesses will be those that are part of the solution to the plethora of social and environmental problems we face, not distinct from them. Yet this idea is not based on altruism. As one sustainable business guru attests, being green doesn't work because it attracts a green market, but because it makes for a better managed business. And in the final analysis, the best reason to operate sustainably is simple. Your customers expect it. In closing, if you have any questions or feedback regarding this program or any program offered by Ocean Education International, please feel free to contact me as indicated here. And for those of you enrolled in one of my sustainable tourism courses, the verification code for this segment is Mike Nelson. If you don't know who that is, then you don't look like me, but I'll explain in the course orientation. Thank you for your time, and please accept my best wishes for success. Now, go out there and do well by doing good.